Oh, welcome to the Sharpe Show. So happy to have you with me here this evening at 7:30 on the button. See that on the East Coast. So happy to have you with me. And there were many things I could have chatted about today. Lots of stuff going on, but lots of people are talking about lots of stuff. So I didn't want to add to that. And I thought instead I was going to support my members who have been sending me lots of things to look at. And I want to reiterate something for those of you who are sending me stuff to react to. I'm happy to have it. Please don't stop. Members, please keep doing it. Some of you are sending me videos that are 2 and 3 hours long. I don't mind that. But if there's a specific piece in it, please let me know where to look instead of having me watch the entire 2 hour to know what I'm supposed to be reacting to. Now, unless you're going to react to the entire 2 hour show, in which case, please say that, but recognize that. If you ask me to react to a 2 hour show, yeah, I'll do it. It'll be a 6 hour show for me. So you're going to sit here and watch 6 hours. You can. I would love for you to sit here and watch 6 hours of me. That would be amazing. But I don't think you're going to. I mean, but maybe not. I could try it. But just please keep that in mind. If you send me something that's long, tell me the area or areas, if there's more than one, that you'd like me to look at to decide what I want to do and how it's going to work. So just keep that in mind if you guys don't mind. It's just easier if you could do so. So I do appreciate that. If you would make that a little bit easier. But I want to keep going on. I've got lots of them, so I can't grab all of them. So I want to do at least one a week, maybe 2 a week, maybe. Tomorrow I will have my AMA, which is awesome. I'll do the AMA and I'll cover a bunch of stuff I'm sure you guys want to talk about. We'll cover it all tomorrow. I don't know if I'll do a show this weekend. I'll be spending some time with my family this weekend, so we don't know if I will be doing it. But I will be doing another show tomorrow, an AMA at 7 p.m., I hope. Today's video is about something that I think is kind of important for several reasons that people don't really understand why it may be important. It's coming up. Is it now or was it just recently? It was a anniversary of George Floyd's death. 5 years, right? 5 years, his death. And people not talking about pardoning Derek Chauvin and what's the legacy of that area. This guy, Matt Christiansen, did a video on what happened afterwards and such. And what I am unhappy about, I'll show you in a minute, is how very often people aren't looking at why this really matters. They pick a side, get angry, and virtue signal, which is a common thing, or just insult the other side. They just do that, right? They just insult it, and that's it. And there's more to this than that. And I hope you guys will see that. So we're going to talk about this video, if I can get this going, and you will see what I mean by this. All righty. And of course, I will take your comments and questions with it as always. As always.
Over a decade after the fiction that was Hands Up, Don't Shoot, and almost 5 years after the sequel, I Can't Breathe, it's no...
Now, why do I say what I just said? He immediately starts with the fiction that was and the sequel that was. He begins immediately with an insult. Now, you might think he's right. I don't have a problem with you thinking he's right. I know lots of people do. But if I'm watching your video and I want to learn something, do you want to start your video this way? No. So I don't think he wants me to learn anything. I think he is just preaching to his audience, which is okay. I'm not mad at that. But when you see someone's preaching to their audience, you have to then understand that they are by default biased, right? So he may be correct in his data. Like I often show you people who are correct in data, but their outcomes are often wrong. Why? Because they're clearly biased and they're preaching to their choir. So if you, instead of just going, this is 5 years from the death of George Floyd, he starts off by attacking, which means he's dismissing. That's a dismissive piece. You know he's going to be biased off the bat.
Secret or revelation that Black Lives Matter has been one of the biggest scams in the country's history. All that donated money bought...
Now, here's the second piece. He says the secret that Black Lives Matter, and he's being facetious, obviously. Here is what a lot of people didn't understand then, and some now don't understand it. There was a massive difference between the concept of BLM and the actual organization of BLM. For those who don't know what I mean. And I feel bad, and it's going to sound funny, but hear me out before you get mad at me. I actually feel bad for a lot of the white liberals who threw money at BLM. Why? I think they thought they were doing the right thing. I think a lot of those people who threw money at this group, they believed in their heart they were doing the right thing. They thought, I'm being righteous, I'm being good, I'm helping out Black people. I think they honestly believed that. They were wrong. That's not what happened at all. But I do think that their intent was actually a good intent. And I feel like they were scammed. So the idea of wanting to help Black people is a wonderful idea. And I hope all of you would like to help all people and Black people too. I hope you would like that. That would be amazing. But the problem is this was a scam. And people who gave their money now think, oh, wait a minute. Did I just throw my money away? Or if you give all your money away and march with BLM and then find out that the organization, not the movement, the organization is basically a scam, are you able in your own mind to accept that as true? Or do you tell yourself a story so you don't feel like you've been duped? What if you gave 4 or 5 figures to this organization? And some people did. And now it's a scam? Do you just say, well, no, they're good and everyone's a liar? Maybe you do because of how much money you gave. Again, I want to be clear. Many of the people who gave money, their heart was in the right place. The people who ran it, their heart was in exactly the wrong place. So I want to make a distinction between those two, so I'm not hammering people who are trying to do the right thing. If that makes any sense.
Mansions and other luxuries for organizers. But hey, at least those particular scammers are actually Black. A white guy in Australia collected over 6 figures in donations, supposedly to the cause that actually just went to his wallet. An albino guy in Georgia did the same, although I guess he technically counts as a life eligible for mattering. Edge case. But the legacy of BLM-related activism is so much worse than just the scam, as in...
And that's the problem, right? That this happened in the thing that is horrible for this is obviously there are issues that people deal with, particularly in inner cities, but all over. Obviously there are issues people deal with. So when you have an organization like BLM who pretends that we're the answer, right? We're the answer. We got you covered. We're BLM. Give us money. We got this. And people say, great, I don't have to worry about it. I'll write a check and then you'll take care of the problem that I care about. Wonderful. And then they don't. Well, now the person giving the money goes, well, maybe I shouldn't give money anymore. You wind up hurting the movement that you think you're trying to help. And then guys like him just insulted all day long. And now it's done.
Fraudulently cashing in on the trusting goodwill of others. It was actively destroying their honest businesses too. And you may be thinking, yeah, I know. I saw the AutoZone and I saw the Target and I saw the rest of the $1 billion in riot damage in just 2020 alone. But that's just the...
But to be forward, if he's talking about the Black Lives Movement, right? The damage done there, I'm not excusing the damage done. Not at all. All I'm saying is you might say it's their neighborhoods, true, but they don't own it. The part that I'm most upset about is the small business owners, the local small business, which he's also going to talk about. They were actually destroyed too, right? Not that I'm upset, not upset that a big business gets destroyed. No business should be destroyed. But if your goal is, I'm going to go get the man, if that's your goal, okay, you go get the man and you go beat up the big business, I guess. Okay. But when you wind up crushing the little guy who actually lives in your town, the guy who's supporting your actual community, wow. The guy who actually is Black in the Black Lives Matter movement, that makes it even worse.
Obvious stuff in the moment. For many businesses, the arson was a much slower metaphorical burn. Their once viable livelihoods bled out over time, despite the efforts of the owners to sustain. And given the neighborhoods we're talking about, the irony, of course, is that many of these business owners who have had their livelihoods ruined are Black or minority themselves, and their Black livelihoods absolutely do not matter at all to the politicians who have built their careers kneeling and claimed on.
This is where you will hear me say all the time, constantly, virtue signaling hurts. It hurts. Why? Because kneeling like this, now look, get me wrong. If you show up to some event and they kneel and you want to kneel, it's fine, whatever. But this was done in lieu of anything of value, right? If you're going to actually fix something and they go, hey, I fixed something, and look, I'm going to kneel at your event. Oh, okay, nice. Thank you for the kneel. Nice. But can you fix stuff, right? If they fix things and then kneel because they want a press conference, fine. Look, if you are a politician and you would like to get some credit for doing something nice, so you kneel or whatever, okay, great. Do that. I don't have a problem. But do something, right? Don't just virtue signal. But they did this instead of actually fixing anything. This part drives me nuts. And it's constant. It's constant. Virtue signaling, people went, oh, great, this works now. They kneeled, so we're good. No, we're not good. We're not good.
Honor of them. Minneapolis is now almost 5 years removed from George Floyd's death, so it's well past audit time for what was supposed to be a renewed commitment to the advancement of Black residents in the city.
Yep, I remember.
What has that advancement been so far? What exactly is better about Black life or any life in Minneapolis today than it was 5 years ago? And if nothing, then what excuses do the politicians possibly have? Democrats,
they don't have to have any. Let's be clear. And he's showing a picture right now, which is Democrats control the Minnesota legislature. There was something special here, if I remember. It was like the city council was all women or something like that. And that's why you see so many women there. I think they were all the city council leadership was women or something like that. And they're like, see, women have taken over and now we're winning. And my problem is, to be forward, you guys know me well enough, I don't care if it's all women or all men or any combination or all Asian or all Black or all Hispanic or all white. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me at all. I do not care. I want them to fix things. And if it takes all women to fix things, awesome. If it takes all men to fix things, awesome. And I don't care if that makes you angry. I don't care. I want my government to fix things or get out of the way, either one. But the problem is they only cared about these people being women. Now, some people get mad and go, it's women, that's why they fail. No, they were failing before the women came on. So they've been failing. The women just copied what everybody else was doing and they kept failing. So the women aren't any better or any worse. They just probably dress better is what I would assume. I mean, maybe not, but I would assume they'd probably dress better. So you have better dressed people who still can't fix anything. So, but they touted this as success. I'm not joking. If you look at the press here when this happened, I think it was 2022, might have been 2024, but I think it was 2022. It's 2022, it was 2022, where all women took over. And they touted this as some amazing success. But if you look at the actual data, the crime statistics, crime was getting worse. Minnesota has a higher crime rate than the average in America, and Minneapolis has a 2 or 3 times, at least the past, probably not to this year, last year and the year before, in 2022, 3 times, 2 or 3 times. So the crime was terrible. But they were proud because we elected the group of people that we decided mattered. We elected those people and had no actual success. That's a
took
problem.
control of the state legislature in 2022 for the first time in a decade, under a governor who allowed a police precinct to become a bonfire for the mob, under a president who repeated the talking points as directed.
Black lives matter, period. I'm not afraid to say it. Together we can fix this.
I don't care if you want to say Black Lives Matter. It makes some people mad. I know people watch that and get mad. Or the retort I get, all lives matter. By the way, the all lives matter retort to Black Lives Matter is insensitive. People say it's racist. I'm not saying it's racist. It's insensitive. What does that mean? If someone is having a problem and the person's Black, and they say, see that? Black Lives Matter because the Black person got hurt or died or was killed. And you go, all lives matter. That's insensitive. You can say it. Doesn't mean you're racist, but it's insensitive. It's like saying, I have cancer. Well, I had a heart attack. Oh, yes, but I have cancer now. So why are you being a jerk? You're being insensitive. And people think they're somehow owning the lib by saying that. You're just being a jerk. Now, you're not wrong, right? So, if I say I got cancer and you go, I had a heart attack. If you had a heart attack, you're not wrong to say that. It's true. You said it. You have it. I get it. But it's insensitive. So you could just not say anything if you want to, or go, oh, I'm so sorry, or any of those things. There are many options. Or maybe later on, tell me how you had a heart attack. All those things would be nice. But if I'm currently suffering and you dismiss my suffering by saying other people suffer too, that's insensitive. This is why the all lives matter retort is insensitive. I know people call it racist. You don't have to be racist to say that. You might be racist. I mean, you might be, but that doesn't make you racist. It makes you insensitive. So you probably shouldn't do it unless you want to be insensitive. Yes. So, but right now, if you can see, right now, Joe Biden is being stunning and brave. He's being brave by saying exactly what the Democrats want him to say. He's being very brave.
Let's build back better.
I'm not afraid to say it, as though it takes any bravery at all to repeat after the mob's demands. The bravery would have been to challenge the hostage takers pointing guns at him on the other side of that camera. But of course, that never happened. And because
I think Biden was happy with it, to be forward. I don't think he felt like a hostage at all. I think he's like, yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
the mob wasn't challenged, it was only facilitated, the mob ruled. And the honest business owners at the very site of George Floyd's death suffered the most. The city of Minneapolis set up barricades blockading the area around 38th and Chicago, so vehicle traffic could not move through anymore. Those barricades did come down the next year in 2021, but
it took a year. You put up a barrier for a year. Do you know how hard that is for local businesses? When you pick up a barrier so people can't get through? They did it for a year. Why? This, again, what is this? This is virtue signaling. This is literally the government virtue signaling. We're going to put up a barrier to show and allow them to have some type of, I don't know, some type of a ceremony every time he's there, right? Some type of temple for him to be there. Why? Don't get me wrong. If you are a family member of George Floyd and you are sad that you've lost your family member, I get it, right? It doesn't, and you might go, well, he's an addict. Who cares? If he's your family member and you lose him, obviously you feel bad. And those people should be able to mourn, of course. So let them come and mourn. I get that. But this became all of a sudden, as he says, local activists. What? These aren't people who were related to him. These aren't his family members who are hurt because they lost their family member. These are people who just want a virtue signal. So you ruin the entire area again for virtue signaling. Now, whatever you think of George Floyd, the people who loved him, whether I know he has a daughter at least or whatever, he had other family members, I'm sure they were devastated by his death. I'm sure they were. So allow them to, they want to go there and grieve, let them grieve. They would funeral, I'm sure, whatever. Let them grieve. They want to paint a mural. Okay, I get it. You want to grieve because your family member passed away. I got it. But random people who just now can virtue signal? No, you don't make barriers for them. It's a terrible idea, and we become accustomed to it. We have it here where I live in Astoria. It's like a couple memorials out here for like people like hit by cars and such. And like, again, if you're a family member and you've lost somebody, I get it. Doesn't matter, of course. But this is just for virtue signalers. It's just a pain. It makes everything worse.
they were replaced by other barricades installed by activists that the city just allowed to remain. The city...
And again, the city allowed. Why? There's a couple reasons why. Reason number one is what was called actually the George Floyd effect, which was cops began to say, I'm not touching this area, I'm walking away. And you see that here in New York, sadly. You see that still to this day in New York. Cops saying, oh, look, if I arrest someone, it's not going to matter. If I report, it's not going to matter. But you also see individual people here in New York. People who won't bother, they won't bother calling cops. They won't bother reporting it. They won't bother, right? I've had packages stolen. I don't report it to cops. Why? What are you going to do? I try to get my money back from Amazon or wherever I ordered it from if I can, but that's it. I don't report it. I don't report it as a theft. What are you going to do? There's nobody to do anything. You see it there too. So the cops just stop caring. The people just stop caring. And now everything begins to collapse. Yes. And now you have, of course, a black market. And that's what happens here.
Allowed these activists to become the area's police force themselves. They were the neighborhood's so-called security, even though many of them were known gang members. And at least according to the business owners, the Minneapolis Police Department, all but abandoned any presence there.
There is not just a memorial to George Floyd.
Now, here's the part that bothers me, right? The two parts. Number one, the press doesn't say this is harming businesses. The press also virtue signals, doubles down on virtue signaling, right? Doubles, triples down on it. This is a glorious thing of amazingness and how wonderful it is and everything. But what about the people who are there? How about them? If someone gets killed on my street, I don't want it to happen. I hope it doesn't. But if it does happen, I would get if the family members came by and wanted to say something or have a ceremony or something. And I wouldn't be a jerk. If they came by and shut the street down for an hour or two, whatever, and had a ceremony because their loved one passed, I would not be mad about it. But I get it. If it was my son or uncle or cousin or something, I'd feel the same way. I got it. But you're gonna put a barrier now? I can't get to my home anymore? No. And you can guarantee if that was in a rich neighborhood, which goes to the actual problem in the first place. If this was a wealthy neighborhood, there is no way that barrier is going up. There is no way the cops aren't coming. No way. No way the cops aren't coming.
Anymore. It's more of a community center. There is community gatherings that happen at the former gas station, and there's a community garden.
Why is it a former gas station and not just a gas station?
There is still love and light being shared.
There's love and light here. Do you get that, guys? I know Mike Voss is watching. Hey, Mike, who cares? Love and light. Why are you so mean? Why are you so mean, Mike? Love and light right here. That's all that matters. Lunatics in the house now. Look, love and light. Who cares that they've shut down the street, that the cops have walked away, and the business is all suffering? Doesn't matter. There's love and light. This goes right back to the damn virtue signaling that we keep doing. Again, if you are a family member of George Floyd when he died and you want to go there every year and do some kind of ceremony because you missed your family member, I get it. And I wouldn't be mad at you. If I lost my family member, I'd be the same way. But none of these people are family members. They're not. They're just virtue signalers. That's all they are. Who want to show the world how awesome they are on Instagram or Facebook or wherever they go. Yes, that's what this is.
Shared here.
This is our response. Do your worst, and we'll do our best.
The gardener of George Floyd Square. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You're not. Now, am I mad some guy wants to be a gardener? No, I think community farms are wonderful. Please have a community farm. Not in the middle of the street and crying on CNN. Just go have a community farm and sell your local vegetables and life is good. But you can't because nobody can go there because they put barricades up. And if you had to sell anything, you'd get robbed by the local gang members who would literally have a protection racket on you. So you can't do that. So instead he has to cry on CNN and virtue signal. Garrett coming in hard. Thank you for the memberships, my friend. Thank you so much, Garrett. Garrett coming in. We show up my memberships. Guys, grab it. If you can, please do that. It's amazing. Please grab those, Garrett. You are awesome. I appreciate it tremendously. If you would, please. Also, if you have not yet, click the button known as Lima, India, Kilo, Echo. Please click that button right now. If you like this, if you think it's interesting and fun, I'm showing you something that you might not have seen someplace else or might not have thought the way I'm about to keep telling you. I've got more stuff, by the way, of course. Also, if you haven't shared yet, please share or repost this now. If you have a Facebook group that you haven't been in a while, put this in a Facebook group. Share it. Share it off YouTube. Share it off Facebook. Put it in that group. It doesn't matter. Every little bit counts, right? If you have not followed me on Sharpe Way, on Facebook, X, and Rumble, why do you hate the children? That's all I'm saying. Please do that. Also, please, no matter where you're watching this, head on over to YouTube, go there, subscribe, and click all notifications so you know whenever I go. Subscribe. It does matter. Please do so. If you want your chat to go to the front, you can have a super chat me if you want to, or rant me on Rumble. Either of those work. Membership, well, you're getting a bunch of them. Garrett's giving them away. Other way, you can also click that join button if you want to. But thank you, Garrett, for that. That is an amazing piece. Again, as always, I appreciate the support. It is great. All righty. Let me keep going a bit more on this one.
This is it. Every direction. Peace and love.
That is a guy's store, by the way. That's a guy's store, by the way, that now no one can drive into. Yes. Now, why don't the cops come by and clear that out? Why don't they have protection? Because virtue signaling is all that matters. That's all that matters. Virtue signaling is all that matters. Nothing else is important. And we've seen this again and again and again. So why you keep hearing me complain about it. It is harmful. It is just harmful. I'm looking over at Rumble, and Americua says, Larry, contact Matt. He will come on. Do you know him personally? I'm not joking. I'm asking seriously. Do you know him personally? Because most of these people would not come on, but I hope he would. That would be amazing. I hope he would. So, yes, let me keep going.
Because peace and love don't pay the bills, of course, and the ideological commitment to it above all else has created the opposite instead.
And that's the problem. He's hit the point correctly. The ideological commitment is true, but I don't want to take something out of it, right? This is the problem. What he's saying is correct, but he's very dismissive. And he's dismissive of the underlying issue. The underlying issue. 2 points. Number one, there is an issue in your community if your police are resorting to violence, right? There's an issue. Could be yours, could be theirs, a combination, whatever the case may be. Not just that. He seems to act like it doesn't matter. It does matter. Now, is George Floyd some type of martyr or awesome whatever? No, of course not. It doesn't mean he should have died, right? When Jordan Neely here in New York City was killed by Daniel Penny, Daniel Penny was not guilty, in my view, and also in the court's view, of murder. But doesn't mean Jordan Neely should have died. Those two things can be true. Jordan Neely should not have died, and Daniel Penny was not guilty of murder. Those two things can exist together. And they did in New York. Thank you. That's a great thing. So I want to be clear on that, right? Now here, people are acting like George Floyd deserved to die or something. He did not. Let me explain why. But Larry, he was a bad guy, whatever. Does not matter. Here's the reality. You know what killed George Floyd? Lockdowns. Yes, the lockdowns. The government killed him. The system killed him. The same thing that killed Neely. It's the same thing that killed him. Larry, how are you going to make it to put us in the government? Here's why. Here's the reality of what was happening with George Floyd. George Floyd was actually out of jail, and he had a job. This is true. Now, does it mean he would have been a great, perfect citizen? Who knows? Maybe he's dead. We'll never know that. Is it possible? Sure. We do know something. Here's what we do know for sure. If you have someone work for 5 years, the odds of them going back to prison or committing a crime are lower than people who have never committed a crime. So 5 years of work is the magic number. It is what gets people to stop committing crimes. That's true. Now, he didn't have that when this happened, but he was working, which he had not done before. He was actually working. He had a job. This is true. He had reconnected with his daughter. That's true. Doesn't mean he was going to be great. We don't know this, but we know that was true. Lockdowns came. He got let go. We also know at one point from his job, he was clean. How do we know? He did drug testing. So he was clean. That we know. He was. He had a job. That we know. Lockdowns came. He lost his job. He was no longer clean. Now, do I know that he would not have gone back to drugs? I don't. We won't know because he's dead. Maybe he would have been clean and he would have got his life turned around, and maybe he'd been a great father to his daughter. Who knows? We'll never know that because he's dead. He did not deserve to die. The system is what got him killed, because if he would have had a job, then he wouldn't have been at that place in the middle of the day, high with counterfeit money. That wouldn't have happened. Why? He would have had a job and real money. And if he was keeping that job, again, assuming that he would, we don't know this, but if he would have, then he wouldn't have been high either, because he would have got fired because of the drug testing. So what actually killed him? It was our broken system and our stupid lockdowns, and it was the government that actually killed him. Same thing that killed Jordan Neely. That's the reality. And here's my problem with what Matt's doing. What Matt's doing is simply taking one side and ignoring that important piece. That's the most important piece here. That's what matters in the entire piece. And that's why we should remember this. Not because George Floyd was a great guy or whatever. I don't know. He did not deserve to die. That's true. But does it mean that we should think about why he got there? He got there because government shut his life down. That's it. So let me grab a couple of these if I could. Mike says, BLM riots ruin generations of poor Black and Hispanic communities. True. Floyd was an unrepentant criminal whose death via violence was inevitable. That's not true. You don't know that. I just went through that. You don't know that to be true. That may have been true. It is possible. But to say he was an unrepentant criminal is not true. We don't know that. I couldn't say. Well, we don't know if he was. So we're unsure. Not a martyr, hero, nor memorable. Not a martyr, true. Not a hero, true. But should be memorable. But not for the reasons they're doing it. Memorable for the reasons that I just said. He is literally the poster child of destruction that the lockdowns brought. We should be looking at that. We should be looking at the system that put him there and the system that doesn't give a crap and hasn't learned a thing. Because there will be more George Floyds. There'll be more. And some of them will be great stand-up citizens, and some of them will be bad criminals. But it's not stopping. That's the issue. So, yes. All right, let me grab a couple more. Lunacy, thank you for the $2. Larry, we need cooperation with actual compensation. Agreed. He says, not a job, a purpose. Get it correct, not right. The issue here is many people, and maybe too many to your point, Lunatic, maybe too many, but many people, their job is their purpose. Now, that's not everybody. And the people who are happiest just have a purpose. It can be your job, or it may not be. But a lot of people who don't have, because so many people get purpose from their job, if they don't have a job that gives them purpose, right? If they don't have a job that gives them purpose, then if they don't have a job that gives them purpose, then they don't get purpose. So they think there's only a job. So I get what you're saying, but the point is, some people do get purpose from a job. So yes, but some don't. Some get it from their family, friends, whatever the case may be. So I think Mike's mad at me. He gave me the no, big capitalized. No, what killed Floyd were choices he made. Only Floyd's responsible to put himself where his death was inevitable. No, brother, no. And I'll give you example why no. People are affected by their environment. It's how it works. People are affected by their environment. If you have a worse environment, you will have worse outcomes, right? That's how it works. If you have worse environments, you will have worse outcomes. And an example I'll give is a recent example, well, relatively recent, the 90s. Bill Clinton, Joe Biden throw 100,000 more cops into Black and brown neighborhoods, not into white neighborhoods. They throw 100,000 more cops into Black and brown neighborhoods. And you can go, well, they made decisions. They made the same decisions the white kids made. There was 100,000 more cops in their neighborhoods. So they had 100,000 more interactions. You have more interactions with cops, you're going to have worse outcomes. That's a systemic issue. Why did these guys decide to throw 100,000? And then worse, after they do that, they only fund them for 2 years. They fund them for 2 years. People don't know that. 2 years they were funded. So now the local municipalities don't have money for these cops. What are they going to do? Civil asset forfeiture. That's the origins of it. So now what are you doing? Now you're stealing from your population. That's my fault for living in a bad neighborhood. That's my fault for getting robbed by the cops. That's my fault. No, that's systemic. Now you might go, well, I didn't say it's racist. I didn't say that. Now, can the outcome be racist without the people being racist? Yes, of course it can. If I throw 100,000 cops into Black and brown neighborhoods more than white neighborhoods, which is what happened in the 90s, demonstrably true. That's the crime bill. Biden wrote it. He knows, right? Remember, Clinton was super predators, and what he said was, if you mix schools, you're in the jungle, and that's what Biden said, right? So you throw them in there, even if cops are not racist or the same racist level as anything else. If it's 100,000 more in Black neighborhoods, you're going to have more Black criminals because they're going to get caught. Now, data shows when it came to drug use, percentage-wise, same. White kids, Black kids, Hispanic kids, same. 100,000 more cops in black neighborhoods. It's not just choices. Environment affects people every single time. Environment affects people. Garrett's on board. Give me my 100%. Yes, it is true. Absolutely. So, all right. Real Mav says, there is zero doubt that a better cop would have had a better outcome. So, yes, also true. Yes, the cop made some bad choices, and so did George. Not a good situation from any standpoint. Correct, Real Mav. And what my point is, you're right. Look, Chauvin was a bad cop. Not because of what he did with him, but he already had a record. This goes back to my other thing about cops. The problem with the situation in cops now is cops can move, right? And so what happens is you have a bad cop in County A. And I'm not saying all cops are bad, but there are bad cops. So a bad cop in County A, he makes errors, he does things bad, he hurts somebody, the case may be. They need to get rid of him. Well, the union won't let him be fired, so they let him resign. So he resigns. So he's out of that force. Well, he moves to another place. When he gets to that place, they hire him. Why? He doesn't have any bad blood from last place. They can't. So they hire him, right? Or they get in trouble. Union supports him. So he gets hired. He does something bad again. Well, yeah. Now he moves someplace. Now, over the course of 10 years, he gets 3 or 4 charges. The average person doesn't remember the guy's name or anything. But what do they do? Bad cop in this county, bad cop in that county, bad cop. Man, the cops are terrible. Look how bad the cops are. Same cop. They're making it up. Remember Chauvin? 9 times he had problems. 9. Was what 8? I forgot. 8 or 9 times. 8 or 9 times. He had a record of being a bad cop. He was a bad cop. The system failed him too. He shouldn't have been there. He shouldn't have been a cop. He shouldn't have been a cop. He had 8 shots or whatever it was, right? 8 chances. Shouldn't say shots. He had 8 chances, and he didn't. He didn't fix it. And the system didn't fix it either. But is he talking about that? No. Who's talking about that? Me. Some of you've never heard that before. The system is what put Chauvin there. The system is what put Floyd there. The broken public union system for police and police checks put Chauvin there when he shouldn't have been a cop anymore. And the lockdowns put Floyd there. Now you might go, well, bad decisions. Yeah, I get it, but people make bad decisions. That doesn't mean they should die. It wasn't like Floyd was trying to harm somebody. He wasn't out there trying to hurt people. He wasn't doing that. He was hurting himself, that's for sure. Doesn't mean he deserved to die. Does not mean he deserved to die. I won't stand by that. He did not deserve it. So, yes. Phil says, oh, you became a YouTuber member. Thank you, my friend. Thank you for the membership. Appreciate it, brother. Thank you for the membership, guys. Yes, absolutely. John says, Biden wrote the bill. Harris and others put mostly black men away for a long time for simple marijuana possession. Accurate, John. Yes. When literally, if you check the data, during that same time frame, Hispanic and white people, men in this case, used weed the same percentage. Again, you put 100,000 more cops into those neighborhoods, you are going to have 100,000 cops worth of more. So yes, absolutely. So thank you for that. I appreciate that, John. Americua over on Rumble says, I've watched Matt for 4 years and I bet at least $100 he would. All right, look, I'll reach out. If you could reach out too, that'd be great. I will reach out. That's what I'll see if it'll come on. Or I go on his show and come on mine. Whatever's going to work. I don't mind any of them. It's good. Yes. So all good. Some people are asking if tomorrow's show will be show number 600. It will. Yes. And if I count tomorrow's show as Sharpe Way 600, plus the other shows that I've done at least 130 Libertarian Drinking Coffee Live, almost 250, almost 250 Sharpe Way radios, 50 Sharpe clubs, and other shows. I'm at about 1,000. I'm over 1,000 shows. I know, it's crazy. 1,000 shows in 5 years, 6 years. It's a lot. It's a lot of shows. But yes, I have done a lot of shows. It's why I'm so good at this. Well, I don't know if I'm that good at this. It's why I can do it so quickly. How about that? Maybe that's better. Michael, thank you for being a member. Floyd was a COVID casualty. Yes. Yes, he was. That is accurate. Yes. John was going to say, really upset that all the officers on the scene were convicted of accessories, including one on the job less than a week, and heard suggestion that Chauvin, his training officer, let Floyd up. And her suggesting Oh, yes. Yeah. Look, the reality of it was a lot of people had to go to jail and be punished because of the politics of it. That's true. That's true. Lunatic Libertarian says, thank you for $2, my friend. Problem with modern society, Larry, the programming. Yes, accurate.
Ruin and chaos without customer traffic and with peaceful and loving criminal intimidation and attack on those who do dare to shop in the area, business has been decimated. And so now, through 2 different lawsuits, the business owners are suing the city. The first is from the owners of Cup Foods, the store where George Floyd actually spent his infamous counterfeit $20 bill on some cigarettes. They're suing for $30 million in business losses they say are a direct result of the city's actions or lack of action in policing. The owner.
Yes, but there's a problem, though. Yes, but there is a problem. For those of you who don't know, and he's going to cover this, the cops are not responsible for us at all. They don't have to help us at all. They had no obligation. I go, what? They're here to protect and serve. That's just something they write on the side of the car. That's not a real thing. You'll cover that in a second. Kim says, you have the best chat, Larry. I agree. Andrea also agrees. We are there. Absolutely. John has a very valid point. He goes, Floyd did not deserve to die. Yep, true. However, based on the fact that he had trouble breathing before getting out of the car, the amount of drugs in his system, there's a good chance he dies that day. Even if he, I guess, hadn't run into a police officer that day, maybe, yes. I'm not saying you're wrong. In either case, though, I think we agree he didn't deserve to die. And he wouldn't have been there if he had a job. Right? If you're working at a place that checks you for drugs and you got a job and your own money, you're not there. You're at work. So you're doing your job. In which case the odds are, we don't know, odds are he wouldn't have died that day. Odds are he would not have died that day if they didn't have the lockdowns. That's the odds. We don't know. I want to believe, because I believe in people, and I have known addicts who have actually, recovered, my mother being one of them. I want to believe he would have recovered. I don't know if he would have. We don't know. He's gone, so we don't know. But you're right. He made a lot of bad choices. Does not mean he deserved to die. That's it. Andrea says, the lockdowns ruin more lives than the BLM rights. Correct. Absolutely correct. The lockdowns, I never forgive this country for lockdowns. I never forgive my city for that. No grace.
Of Cup Foods also operate 4 other businesses in the area, all of which are part of this lawsuit. And Cup Foods is actually hated by a lot of the activists who think that store ownership and staff are responsible for George Floyd's death. The employee who reported that counterfeit bill even expressed remorse on the stand at Derek Chauvin's trial.
Why are you packing? The store owners say they have received both love and hate, especially.
Okay, stop. You have not received love. CNN just has to play that game. That's not true.
Especially after their former cashier testified he was the one who took the alleged fake bill from Floyd. Christopher Martin, a teenager, tried rectifying it with Floyd. That didn't work, and police were called. Martin now regrets that.
If I would have just not taken the bill, this could have been avoided.
Yes.
The problem with this is he's a teenager, which, he's a teenager who's working. So we punished him for that. But even worse, he now has to say that. Can you imagine if he didn't? Could you imagine if that young man in that neighborhood, could you imagine if he actually said, hey, the guy was counterfeit and I got a business and I got to do my job. Could you imagine if he said that? Even if he thought it, he probably didn't think at the time. Even if he thought it, imagine if he said that. He's got to move. Like he can't go back home. He has to move or he won't make it home.
Only he had successfully negotiated with the drug addict. Then George Floyd's heart wouldn't have exploded from the meth and fentanyl cocktail he'd already taken before this guy ever even talked to him. Eventually,
this is the flippant part that that is not good. He's just flippantly saying, well, it's just because he's drugged. That's it. That's all that matters. Nothing else matters. but the fact that he took drugs. That's all that matters. Nothing else in the context of this matters. Nothing else in the way that we've been policing, nothing in the way that we had lockdowns, nothing in the way the city's been worked. None of that matters. What matters is he took drugs, so let him go. That now he's not saying those words, but he's saying that. And that's the part that's wrong, right? And you might say, well, Larry, what do you like? You like feeling bad for the drug addict? Yes. Yes. We have a serious addiction problem in this country. We have over 100 people dying every day from drug addiction. Over 100. Was it 200 now? Whatever it is. We have a serious problem. Each of those people who dies of an overdose in America is somebody's family member. So, yes, I would like them not to die. Yes, that's what I'm saying.
One might ask, hey, what if George Floyd didn't do drugs and steal? Maybe that was the explanatory variable that day. Regardless, even if you do hate cup foods for whatever reason, the abuse of other business owners in the area is far worse, actually. Edwin Reed has run a...
Yeah, Kim says fake bills supposed to be kept by the cashier and turned over to proper authorities. They are told by their managers, I know what you're saying, but it's by the managers, don't take it because it's a small business, right? The small business doesn't want to lose the $20. The big business has those policies. Big business has that policy, Kim. Small business probably should, but doesn't, because if they keep them and turn them over, people keep throwing the fake bills at them and they'll literally go out of business. That's why they don't do it. I know here where I live in Astoria, we for a short time we had that. Now they have the things, they give the money right back. They will not take it. They will not take it. So I get what you're saying, but no, they don't. Andrew says, there we go. When we worked at a local liquor store, and if I took a bad bill, it would come out of my check. Yes. So Kim, I hear what you're saying, but local businesses, they don't have that policy. Andrew gets it. I've seen it before. Yeah. They will. No, doesn't work that way. So yeah. Phil says, don't cops have Narcan and defibrillators? I don't know in 2020. Was that a thing then? I actually don't know. Maybe. I don't know. Thank you for $2, my friend. I appreciate it. Yes. I don't actually know. So
a car detailing business a block away from Point Floyd for 15 years. As he explained in an interview with Liz Collin from Alpha News last week, his business died with George. He had something like $400,000 in annual revenue before. Now he has almost none.
When George Floyd died, my company died right along with George Floyd. My peak point, we were averaging $394,000 a year. We claimed $9,700 this year.
And it's not.
How do you survive that? How do you survive $300,000 a year to $9,000 a year? How do you survive that? Now, obviously, he had employees. His employees are gone, right? They're done. He can't afford his employees anymore. He's gone, right? Already gone. There's no way. And again, in case you didn't notice, that guy's black. In case you didn't notice that, I did. Yes. And he lives in the area. He's punished. Why? He's punished because the city has the virtue signal and won't touch and step in and go, no, businesses matter. They won't do it.
Not just the money that the city and the activists have obstructed. It's also the money that they outright steal. Reed says that the gangs in power in the neighborhood are extorting the business owners for supposed protection.
There are business owners being extorted. I was extorted. Some of the business owners have been shot.
Why do you think that other dude literally had a gun on his side? Right? Because he was like, I got to be ready in case I got to take action. Yes.
Because they were failed to make payment to these people who are claiming to protect our area from getting burned down.
And they didn't just kill his business. They're killing his neighbors, too. Reed says last year, a car drove up to his storefront. Hey, great. Is that a guy who actually wants his car shined up? Finally. Oh, no, that's a guy who's been shot in the head. A former customer, actually. Reed tried to render aid and called 911, but police took 20 minutes to get there, and the guy died. And Reed's experience isn't...
And there's the issue, right? Now, the cops take 20 minutes to get there. So why bother calling the cops? You can't do anything. And on top of that, you'll find the same people who fight this will also be pro-gun control. So now you're pro-gun control. So you're saying, wait a minute, let's make sure that the criminals are able to do what they want. The cops will come late and you can't defend yourself. See how this is going? Yeah. Kim says, do not return the bill to the passer. Keep the bill for evidence and do not return it to the person who passed it. Oh, that's what you mean. Okay, yes, but you also don't give him the goods. So I think in this case, if I remember the story, he took the goods. And the guy's like saying, no. You gave me a false bill. And that was it. Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah. Andrea says, if you confiscate that bad bill, you have to deal with the customer. Yep. Just give it back. We didn't have the manpower to deal with someone who could become violent because you took their money. Yes.
Extreme or even unusual. It's routine in that area. Sam Willis runs a sandwich shop, and he's also an emergency responder when the situation demands it, apparently. In 2021, a guy got shot outside his storefront, and he tried to help him, but was taken off duty by two gunmen who took control of the situation instead. Christy Frank runs a consignment store, or maybe she did. She's now facing bankruptcy, but when she was...
This is the part that drives me crazy. So many people think that businesses are evil. Capitalism is bad. This is all small business, all capitalists, all small businesses, and they're all being destroyed. What's going to come in here now? Only one of two things will come in here. Nothing that they need, right? Nothing. Or a chain. Local ownership goes away. You might go, liar, why do I care? That's why so many of these people don't mind burning down these stores, because they see these stores as, we don't own it, so why do I care? This is a Target or something like that. We don't care. Destroy it. They don't care at all. Right? That's how they think. Why wouldn't they? They don't own anything. Well, here's a place where you have local people who own stores. Can you notice some of those people, they're black. In their own community, owning stores, owning businesses, and they're all going away. Why? Virtual signaling. That's the reason.
Was trying to sustain her business. She had to hire security to escort her to and from her store. Willie Frazier runs a boutique. His car was stolen. His store has been broken into, and his store...
Okay, in case you didn't notice, these are all black people.
Storefront shot out. He's watched customers get robbed outside his store, and he's had to take cover to hide from the incoming gunfire. Dwight Alexander owns a barbecue place. He says the situation is so stressful he's drinking and doing drugs again after 13 years sobriety. And somehow that sounds reasonably wise, because the reality for others, I'm sure, is far too painful to bear. Ralph Williams.
This part. Now, look, I get what he's doing. He's just showing all these people who are having problems. I get it. It's bad. I get it. But it doesn't touch the bigger issue, which is what has changed.
A barbershop owner, was shot in 2021 right in the testicle. And when he called 911 to say, please help, someone shot my ball off, assistance did not arrive, so he had to drive himself to the hospital. And hey, emergency aside, drive responsibly, of course, but having a drink or two after such an event is perfectly understandable to me, assuming it's safe to consume with whatever pain medication is necessary to manage that situation. All of these business owners are now cooperating in a lawsuit of their own, seeking $49 million in damages and alleging the city, ironically, discriminated against them based on race, as almost all of them are black. So
the problem now is it becomes a lawsuit, right? And I get it. I understand. Look, what else can they do? It's a lawsuit. But again, you have to have money for a lawsuit, right? Or you have to get a lawyer who's going to believe he can win and then take it on consignment and hope that he gets his cash, right? You got to hope he can do it. Commission, right? Hope that he gets his cash. This is a tough gig. It's a tough gig right now, right? That's the piece that you have to worry about. Your only answer now is lawsuit. Okay, what if the lawsuit takes 2 years? If you're New York State, they fight you all the way to the end. It's several years. How are you going to survive for several years? How are you going to survive? That's your only answer? And the worst part is the system doesn't change. Are the cops policing any different? Are the people who are being elected, are they any different? Is anything actually changing? I would argue no. No. And that's the problem. Nothing's actually changing.
Even if you grant the Black Lives Matter premise that policing is racist and abusive, you got to ask the question, what's worse? A slightly rough arrest on questionable grounds, or getting your nut shot?
A slightly rough arrest on questionable grounds. Dude, stop. Stop kissing Chauvin's ass. Now he's virtue signaling. He did it in the beginning. He's doing it again. Does saying Chauvin is innocent in some way, shape, or form, does that make his argument any stronger? It doesn't. He's just virtue signaling. And the reason is, you've probably heard, there's a bunch of people on Daily Wire who now want Trump to pardon Chauvin. Is it Chauvin or Chauvin? I think it's Chauvin, right? However you pronounce it. I'm gonna say Chauvin. I think it's pronounced Chauvin. So they want him to do that. Why would you do that? Why? For more virtue signaling? For more virtue signaling. Why would you do that? Right? It's insane. Philip says Chauvin committed manslaughter. It doesn't look like he did, right? Yeah. Hold on. It doesn't look like he did. And my point is, yeah, Kim says slightly rough murder. Yeah, it's just virtue signaling, right? It's unnecessary to do this. And first off, he was a bad cop. I'm not making that up. That's data. He was a bad cop. He did bad things and wasn't punished. And now another bad thing. He was rough on a guy who was in trouble. Would Chauvin have died without his knee on his neck? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But should he have put his knee on Chauvin's neck? No, he shouldn't have. We think that's true. No matter what. That's true no matter what. I know that to be true. Some people don't think it's true. It's true. He should not have done that. So now you're gonna add insult to injury and make stuff even worse. Leave it alone, Trump. Matt, leave us alone. Tell your story, which is a valid story, of how government screwed up. You know I'm a libertarian. I love that. But stop trying to insult a guy who died for no reason. When you insult these guys, when you say bad things about, right, when you say bad things about George Floyd is dead. You're not insulting him. He doesn't care. All you're doing is insulting his family more, because his family loves him. Whether you think George Floyd is a bad guy or whatever you might think about him, his family probably loved him, because most people love their family members. So the odds are you have people who loved him. And they probably felt bad about him being an addict. They probably wanted him to get better. I'm sure his daughter wanted his dad to not be an addict. I'm sure I didn't want my mom to be an addict. I didn't want that either. So I'm sure they wanted them to come back. Well, he's dead. So you calling him names, all that does is insult his family and alienate people who aren't on your side. If you're trying, now obviously he's not, that's my whole point from the beginning. He's not trying to convince anybody. I try. I don't always succeed, but I try to bring people together to my side. I try to not insult. I do sometimes. I'm petty and I do it sometimes, but I try not to. He is openly saying, if you don't think that Chauvin is totally innocent, and if you don't think that George Floyd's a horrible human being, don't listen to me. I'm here to preach to you. I'm here to preach to my people, and that's it. That's fine. He can do it, but it's not what I want to do. Not what he should do. He has a valid argument on how the government screwed over all these people. He has a valid argument on how the government in that city, the government in that state, wrecked those people and cared about virtue signaling more than actually fixing the problem. Valid argument. Why you got to insult? Why do you got to insult Floyd's family?
Off. Because there are no police at all. Ask these Black lives for their opinion. A similar lawsuit in Seattle after Chaz, the 2020 Summer of Love encampment, was successful insofar as it earned the business owners a settlement with the city. But one, there is no indication yet that Minneapolis is looking to settle. And they're seeking dismissal of this lawsuit, actually. So for now, they want to say, oh, no, you don't get to sue us dismissing at all. They don't even want to look at the lawsuit. Yep. Yes, we have wrecked all these businesses. Oh, well, what do we care? Don't care at all. New York State's done it in Utica, here in New York. Wrecked 40 businesses. Everything's trashed. Oh, well, too bad. Goodbye. Fighting it. And two, even if this suit is settled, or if these business owners actually win at trial, all of those costs are still on the taxpayer, either directly or through insurance policies that the public pays for anyway. That's not a win for anybody. The public gets ripped off by a bunch of deranged ideologues in government who personally pay nothing for it. And these business owners get a Band-Aid where a reproductive organ used to be. And maybe Minneapolis will settle, but I won't be surprised if they don't. To do so would be to implicitly admit some fault in the handling of the moment, that maybe Black Lives Matter was actually abusive, not helpful or productive. It is completely incoherent to pay George Floyd's family millions of dollars for supposedly overly aggressive policing and then pay
supposedly overly aggressive. Okay. They paid $27 million. That's not supposedly. I'm just saying, if it was supposedly, they might have paid 2, 5, 27. It wasn't supposed. Chauvin had a history.
These business owners for not policing enough. But if anybody actually is weak and contradictory enough to do that, it would be Minneapolis city government. But beyond just philosophical consistency, they do have solid legal ground on which to fight.
They do.
Governments and police forces are under no obligation to protect you or even to enforce the law.
Yeah, and you might think that's something he made up. It isn't. The Supreme Court's already said this. So that thing the cops put on the side, serve, protect, that's optional. The stuff they just put on, that's not required. They don't have to do that. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding at all. So yeah. Kenneth says, could you imagine if cops showed as much respect and compassion for human beings as Steve Irwin showed for crocodiles and deadly snakes? Nice. Lunatic says he said that because there are hundreds of thousands of examples nationwide of the same behavior. Yeah, true. Yeah, true.
At least constitutionally. The Supreme Court set that standard in 2005 in a case where a Colorado woman asked police for protection against her husband who had violated a protective order.
Protective order, and I hear it all the time. You don't need a gun, Miss former girlfriend of a crazy man. You don't require a gun. We'll just have a protective order. We'll do that instead. That'll save you. Because you know what crazy men with guns who are love-struck or heartbroken or crazy, what stops them dead in their tracks? A piece of paper. Stops them right there. Like, I'm a crazy man who wants to kill you. I have a piece of paper. Damn. Now I'm done. And they run away in fear. That has never happened ever. Ever. Yes.
Police did not respond in time, and he killed their daughters. That case was a different legal angle that followed a 1989 Supreme Court decision in a case where social workers failed to protect a young boy from a beating from his father. Same conclusion. There is no constitutional duty for the government or the police to protect you. Now, I'm not.
So there's none to protect you. However, with that being said, by the Constitution, by the Supreme Court, none. If that's true, how can you force the stick, jab? How can you force the Fauci ouchie? How can you force lockdowns? Protection of the people, right? It's right here all the time. Supreme Court said not your job. Supreme Court said not your job. Government, not your job to protect everybody. Supreme Court said so. So then how does Supreme Court say it's okay to lock us all down for protection? Not our job. You just said that. Well, I got to make sure you have this and that. You can't have guns. Why? Because it would be dangerous. Protection. No. Supreme Court said not your job. Not your job, government, to protect us. Supreme Court said so. So why do you keep locking us down, taking our guns away? So when you want to, it's your job to protect us and keep us safe. When you don't want to, it's not. That's a good deal. I like that deal. I want that deal. I get to say I can do whatever I want to say I'm going to protect you, but then when it comes to protecting you, I don't have to protect you. That's better than a protection racket. That's better than a protection racket. That's good. Damn. Okay. I got it all. I got the wrong plan. I got the whole wrong plan. Linda, thank you for the $5. Never know your rights. Just knowledge is needed to ensure the security, but enhancement is always recommended. Look, this is the problem. and this will make some people angry, but I'm going to be very forward. People always say things like, our rights are guaranteed in the Constitution, or our rights come from nature, natural law, or our rights come from God, or our rights come from our creator, whatever. No, it doesn't matter where they come from. I don't care where they come from. Your rights mean nothing if you cannot enforce them. Lunatic, you are correct. You have to enforce them. Doesn't matter. However, you can know them all you want. Who's going to enforce them? If the government will not enforce them and will not allow you to enforce them under the penalty of death, then you don't have your rights. It's what George Floyd said. We don't actually have rights. We have privileges, and the government gives us our privileges when it deems so. This is more proof of that. You will hear so many people, particularly those on the left, you'll hear them go, no, it's for the public safety. That's not the government's job. The Supreme Court said that. The Supreme Court literally said, no responsibility to do any of that. No. Sorry. So every time they say public safety, we have to, for your own good, we have to do this for your own good. No, you don't. Supreme Court said no. I don't know what's going on. The problem is if no one enforces your rights don't matter. Someone's got to enforce it. And that's the sad part. It's just true. So, yes. Anyway, Michael's going to say that's why the Second Amendment is so important. Yes, that is why the Second Amendment is so important. Yes, absolutely. Jared says, did you know that both Chauvin and Floyd worked at a nightclub that was laundering money? Did Chauvin take out Floyd so he didn't spill the beans? I never heard that. But I don't know. Did he recognize him? How would Chauvin, assuming that's true, I don't know that, I've never heard that before, so I'm okay, I'll take your word for it. Assuming that's true, how would Chauvin have known that the guy he was going to go after was Floyd? Did he know that? And then going, oh, yeah. And then if he saw him, now in front of 4 people, I'll just murder this guy. Tough for me to buy that one. He would have known that Floyd was going to be there, shown up there, been told to show up there in some way, shape, or form. And if that was the case, if that was his goal, why didn't he, shove him in the back of a car and off him or something, whatever? I don't know. Why did he do it publicly with people watching? And it's hard for me to buy that one. Andrew, I think if being a member, says police have dangerous job too. Bad cops make it harder. Correct. 100% true. Yes. Mike goes, yes, Chauvin knew Floyd, and yes, Chauvin worked as a security guard at a club. Can't confirm more. Okay. Yeah. There we go. Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. Robert says, Black Lives Matter movement is not the same as the national organization. Correct. I brought it up immediately. That's the first thing I said, Robert, which profited off the slayings of black men. Correct. The organization is a terrible organization. Absolutely true. Just profited and helped no one. But the movement is not a bad movement. I think most people, I'm sure there's exceptions, but I think most people who were part of it and who gave money to the organization, they thought they were doing the right thing. Their hearts were in the right place, even though it's not what happened. I think their hearts were in the right place. And I do want to make sure that's clear, right? I do think that part needs to be clear, that I think most of those people were not trying to do the bad thing. They were trying to do the right thing. Phil says, to serve their union and protect their pensions. Well, yes, but you could also help us, right? Look, if you're in a union, you should help your union and serve it. I agree. If you have a pension, you should protect your pension. Not mad at you for that. You could also do your job well and not kill people. You could do both of those, right? I think you could. And to be forward, the problem with the current union structure, and I think if you ask most people in public unions, and I mean public unions, they would agree with you. The public unions spend about 90% of the time with 10% of the bad apples. If you didn't have to protect the bad apples, you could take 90% of your time and deal with 90% of the good apples. But the reverse winds up happening. So, yeah, that's definitely a problem. So let me wrap this up if I can.
A lawyer, so I assume that the lawyers on this case have some angle beyond constitutional duty, that there was negligence or there was malice involved, and so fault is established that way. But the point is, the city of Minneapolis has solid legal ground on which to fight, and they probably will. Fundamentally, this problem is more of a political one than legal.
Yes.
If you don't like the way that current leadership protects citizens from crime or doesn't, well, vote for new leadership that does. And of course,
Okay, this is the thing this goes back to the idea of the system doesn't matter, right? It's you making decisions. This is Republican talking points you hear all the time, right? You bad decisions, responsibility is all that matters. Okay, Minnesota is a Democratic state. That city is heavily Democratic. I know. I live in New York City. Vote harder doesn't work, right? That's the vote harder doesn't work. The system that I live in, you will hear me complain about it every week. I literally have no say in my government because of my system. None. My city is 6-1 Democrat to Republican. Whoever wins the Democratic primary is the winner. I'm not a Democrat. We have closed primaries. I can't vote in that primary. And if I did, I'd only get people the Democrats put up. So I still wouldn't have a choice. Even if I decided to just hold my nose and become a Democrat just so I could vote, I still wouldn't matter because only people who vote in Democratic primary are hardcore Democrats. So I still lose. I have no say in my government. At the city level, no say. The state level, no say. The federal level, no say. Vote harder doesn't work. That's a bullshit excuse that I hear from these people. The system has to change. And I have been fighting it for a long time. 7 years I've been fighting it. Hold on. 27, 8 years I've been fighting it. This July makes 8 years I've been fighting it. It's not the issue. It's not. You can't just vote out. What he's saying is vote Republicans. That's what he's saying. Like that's the magic answer. Just vote Republicans and all of a sudden everything's awesome. That's not how the world works, my friend. The system has to change. So, Lunatic, thank you for the $10, my friend. Larry, Mike, as soldiers. Did you just call us soldiers? Dude, you're a sailor. You know better than that. Mike, don't get mad. Maybe you should get mad. Lunatic, you're a sailor. You know me and Mike aren't soldiers. We are Marines. There is a difference. And you're a sailor. You know that. I'm going to let you slide this time because you're doing good, but don't. All right. You absolutely have been trained to very consciously understand where security comes from. True. Knowledge, skill set through hard training and service for one another can do. Agreed. However, right? Agreed. The issue, though, is you also have to have an environment. You have to, oh, now he's messing with me. He goes, I knew that would piss you up. Well, it worked. You were trying to, and it worked, Lunatic. Well done. I took the bait. Mike's probably typing right now. Anyway, so, any case, yes, but you also have to have an environment for that, right? You have to have an environment to where people actually want to support that. People are with you, a community that helps that also, right? So you also want a community that also works with that. So yes, I'm agreeing with you, but you have to build out a community that will support that, if that makes any sense. So yeah, all righty.
question that naturally follows is exactly how bad will it have to get before a place like Minneapolis ever considers voting for a different philosophy? And
he doesn't see now he's playing games for a different philosophy. What he means is, when will they stop voting Republican? That's what he means. And the reality is, it doesn't matter. Two reasons why. Number one, the system is already broken. Number one. But number two, the Republicans have any answers. Now, he's a Republican, clearly. And what's the Republican answer in every city in America for problems? They only have one answer. Only one. You know what it is? More cops. That's it. Their answer is more cops. That's the answer. Well, they don't want more cops. And cops don't want to work. In New York City, you can't get more cops. They don't want to be cops in New York City anymore. You can't even get more cops. So even if you want more cops, you can't even get them. People don't want to be cops anymore. Not in New York City. Used to be, for those who don't know, used to be a line to become a cop in New York City. Now, they're begging people to become a cop in New York City. A cop, corrections officer, they're begging them. They're begging them. Yes. Andrea says the right question. Thanks for being a member, Andrea. My question is, when will they vote Libertarian or any other third party? When the system allows them to. See, in New York State, we can't. You know it, Illinois. You're as bad as me. Well, I'm probably worse. But anyway, you're bad too. What are you going to do? You can't become a third party. Now, luckily, this year in mayor, we actually have two people running independently. Sadly, one of them is our current mayor, Eric Adams, who's now running independently. But yeah, it's hard. The system is against it. It doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. So, yeah.
A different approach. And how much abuse will have to be endured in the meantime? How many businesses ruined? How many lives ruined? And that's if they dodge the strays for those lives to continue anyway. Because,
well, the next piece, remember, I bring this up often. When will it actually change? It will change not just when things are bad, but when they see hope. Both things. And I got to tell you, when it comes to local politics, not across the country, but local politics, Republicans are not good at spurring hope. I've said this often, and some of you don't like when I say it. Democratic rhetoric, not actual governing rhetoric, is often better than Republican rhetoric. Now, Trump has been an anomaly. His Make America Great Again has been great rhetoric, right? He's an anomaly. Most Republican rhetoric, particularly in cities, is not good rhetoric, whether you get their policies or not. And voters respond to rhetoric. So the Democrats are saying, we're going to care about you. Here in New York City, I got Mamdani running. Right? I happen to like Mamdani as a person. I met him before. He was on my show. I like him as a person. I do. But his policies aren't going to work. They're going to be terrible. Why would people support him? Because his rhetoric is great. His rhetoric is about inclusion and free buses and helping people out. He has great rhetoric. In theory, look, the last far left governor, mayor we had was de Blasio. He was a disaster. Everyone knows he was that. The guy couldn't get elected again. He tried to run again as like a councilman. He couldn't win. Disaster. Run for president. Couldn't win. Disaster. It was terrible. Mamdani is as left as him, if not more. So we shouldn't want him. But his rhetoric is very good. Republican rhetoric in cities specifically is terrible. It's terrible rhetoric. It's just more cops, more cops. That's the only rhetoric there is, nothing else. Well, that doesn't move people. So why would they vote for you? And his answer is, when will it get bad enough? Again, doesn't matter. Bad plus hope. When you find Republicans who are able to message hope well, they become successful. Now, you might not like Trump. I know some of you don't like Trump at all, but Trump did say, make America great again. That was hope. Going to fix America. It's broken. Going to make things better. That's hope. He did it effectively enough to become president. Republicans rarely do that well. They usually are bad at rhetoric. And so is he, because he's more ready to insult than anything else.
if a war zone isn't bad enough,
we're hopeful that the city will negotiate and make these business owners whole. One of my clients has described it as a war zone.
there aren't many circumstances worse, at least on this earth. But ask the barbershop guy with the missing parts. He'll tell you, Minneapolis probably will find new and progressive ways to create them. Thanks as always
Probably true.
for listening and for supporting this channel.
There we go. So I hope that was interesting for you guys. I'm going to cover some more comments, but the number one thing I want to bring up here, the number one issue I want to bring up here is the system is what makes things fail. And I know people tell me, for those of you who think I'm crazy in that, I did an entire dismantling of Ben Shapiro and his idea there's no such thing as systemic racism. If you want to check my YouTube page, put in Ben Shapiro, Larry Sharpe, I did a whole dismantling of it. He says there's no such thing as systemic racism. This is the problem for you guys to understand this piece. A system can have racist outcomes without the individuals being racist. That can happen. And I explain how it can happen and when it happened. I debunk his entire stuff. Because the problem is both left and right get it wrong. The left says, it's systemic racism. You're all racist. That makes no sense. Either the people are racist or the system is racist, right? If the people are racist, then the system's irrelevant because the people are racist, right? But if the system's racist, it doesn't matter if the people are racist or not because the system's racist. Those don't go together. And Democrats say it all the time. It's a racist system. You're all racist. Doesn't work that way. If the system's racist, the people don't have to be because the outcome is racist. And that's how would I define a racist system? The outcome is racist. That's how I define the racist system, not the people in it. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense for everybody. And again, my point of the 100, I keep saying it, 100,000 cops into black and brown neighborhoods is literally a racist system. You took 100,000 people more than in other neighborhoods and put them into that neighborhood. What do you expect? Of course, that's going to happen, right? Quota systems. by default racist. Even if the individuals aren't. If you have to pick 4 people who are black, 3 people who are white, 2 people who are women, 1 person who's gay, you are by default being a bigot, even though you're not, because the system is set for that. So the left and right can both create racist systems. And that's the piece I want to be clear on. You can create it if you want to. It can be created if you want to. Now, the right just says nothing's racist. No such thing as racism. There's nothing. Nothing. It's all decisions. Nothing's racist. Nothing's racist. System can't be racist. People aren't racist. They just say nothing. So the Democrats say everything is wrong. Impossible. And the Republicans say nothing's wrong. Both are wrong. That's the piece I want to make sure that we understand. And the system is a bad system. Chauvin should not have been a cop. Bad system, right? Bad system. Doesn't mean it shouldn't be cops. Chauvin's a bad cop. He shouldn't have been a cop. And there shouldn't have been lockdowns. And George Floyd should have been in his job. He shouldn't have been locked down, and he shouldn't have been there. And if he's not there, and Chauvin's not a cop, odds are he does not die that day. Now, we don't know. Again, I'm going to be clear. He's dead. We don't know. But that's what we need to be taking back from this, no matter what. Dude, thank you for the $5. He says, women get more lenient sentences for same crimes. Systemic feminism. True. True. Now, does that mean you have feminist judges, or is the system itself feminine? I don't know. I mean, feminists. I don't know. But yes, you have outcomes. You have outcomes that are feminist. Well, what's anti-male? Misandry, is that right? Misandrist? Is that the right word? Whatever the word is for that. That's the thing. Yes, absolutely. Guys, I want to make sure that you do something for me. Please click the button known as like. Why do I spend so much time bugging you on this? Because the rhythm, Mr. Rhythm, Al Gore Rhythm, because when he sees a bunch of likes, he says, I like this, so I want to send it out to other people so that other people can see this. And I'm trying very much to grow this. So please click the like button. It's free. If you have not reposted it someplace or shared it someplace, please share it or post it someplace. It does matter. If you haven't followed me on Facebook and all the other things, please follow me on Facebook. Please follow me on X. Follow me on all those things. And if you subscribe to Sharpe Way YouTube, and you should subscribe to Sharpe Way YouTube, please do that and click all notifications. And you might go, Larry, I've already subscribed. Sometimes YouTube decides you're a bot, just decides that. So yes, please make sure you subscribed. When you become a member, that'd be awesome. $49 per month. Click that join button. Every single time we do it, it makes it easier for me to spend more time doing this. By the way, some people asking about tomorrow's show. Tomorrow's show will be an AMA. It will be my 600th Sharpe Way show. I've done about 1,000 total shows, but it will be my 600th Sharpe Way show. And if you want to come, I'll do an AMA. Some of you have been asking some questions that are kind of off topic. No worries. Ask them tomorrow. I will answer them. It is an AMA. No matter what, we will make that happen. It's all good. We'll all do that. Yes. Robert asks, this eventually manifests itself in the policy prescriptions people provide. If one group is seen as needing protection from bad pathological influences, the results are increased bias policing. Yes. Yes. We want to go out of our way to try to make a fair system, out of our way to the best of our ability. That doesn't mean that we have to have a quota system. Doesn't mean we have to be afraid of each other. Doesn't mean that. I agree. And it's challenging. It's not an easy thing to do, to be forward. It's not easy to do. Absolutely. Celine, thank you for being a member, says, I don't see how your show isn't huge. Shadow banning. Yes. For those of you who don't know, many of you heard this story before, but I'll be very clear and I'll say it. Yeah, John says, yep, YouTube unsubscribed me once already. Yes, that's a real thing. YouTube just decides you're a bot and then unsubscribes you. So that's why you hear me say it every time. Yes. Celine says, I don't see how your show isn't huge. Shadow banning. Yes. Shelly knows. She says it. He's been shadow banned for a long time now. The shadow banning began in 2020. In 2020 is when I started saying that I was against the lockdowns and the mandates. I didn't even say I was against the Fauci ouchie. I didn't even say that. I didn't say I was against it. All I said was the mandates are wrong. The lockdowns are wrong. I knew the lockdowns were wrong immediately. And to be forward, if anyone thinks that I'm making it up, you can head back to my channel, my Larry Sharpe channel, March of 2020. I did it's actually, if you look at it, it says March COVID something or other. And it's literally a group of videos. I put it together in a playlist. It's like 9 videos, something like that, 6 videos. I forgot what it is. And I express all my issues with this. And everything I said literally 5 years ago came to pass. Everything I said then, how things wouldn't work, what we should be doing instead, came to pass. And when I did that, every single platform shadow banned me immediately. And for those of you who are watching, some of you remember, I was getting 5,000 views on one platform, 500. I lost 90% of my audience immediately. And it didn't change at all for years. And I tried putting money into it. I tried doing more shows, bringing people on. Did not work at all. No matter what I did, I could not grow. Finally, when Elon Musk took over Twitter, Twitter began to grow a little bit, but not even a lot, a little bit. Now I still have trouble growing. I don't think the shadow banning is gone. Because you look at what happens. I don't do this live on my Larry Sharpe page anymore on YouTube. Why? I have almost 40,000 subscribers and I get maybe 100 views. How is that physically possible? Shadow banned, still gone. Now I get more views on my Sharpe Way show and I have less subscribers. 1/10 of subscribers. I only have like 3,400 subscribers on this on Sharpe Way, and I get far more views. Why? This one is not shadow banned, I don't think. Because again, if you look at the amount of views I get here, a video here on just this one channel gets several hundred. Well, there's over 10 times the subscribers on Larry Sharpe. I should get thousands of views. I don't. I'm shadow banned now. Shadow banned on Facebook. And I also know I've had 89,000 followers on Facebook, Larry Sharpe, for the last 6 years. I haven't grown at all. Do you see the amount of content I put out? I put out content every single day, tons of content. I have not grown at all in 6 years. None. I do a video on Facebook. I get about 500 views, maybe 600. Good shows, 1,000. I have 90,000 followers and I get 500 to 1,000 views. So yes, been shadow banned for a very long time. I hope one day it goes away. I hope it does. I don't know if it ever will. It's why I thought about moving to Rumble, because Rumble, I don't think shadow bans. I get as many views on Rumble, and I have 10% of the people on Rumble that I have on Sharpe Way YouTube, and I sometimes get more views there. I don't think I'm shadow banned on Rumble, but I'm horribly shadow banned on YouTube, and Facebook is just devastating. The shadow banning is devastating. 90,000 literally people for 6 years, no movement whatsoever, and you see the amount of content I put up. So I went long, but to answer your question, yes, which is why, again, it was the lockdowns, which is why I have literally no grace for the people who locked us down. I have no grace for the people who crushed us and crushed me and helped destroy my business, helped to destroy my chances at running for governor, destroyed my YouTube channel, destroyed my social media. They wrecked everything with their shadow banning because, and again, I didn't even say the stuff was wrong. I was just against the mandates and the lockdowns, and that was enough to crush me. So yes, I went long, but there we go. I hope that makes sense. So Kim says it's more than Al Gore rhythm shadow ban. Yes. There we go. Guys, thank you so much for this evening. I appreciate it. Please, if once you're done with this, tomorrow I will have an AMA. So ask whatever you want then. When you're done with, when this is over, please put in the chat how you feel about policing in George Floyd. Just how do you feel about it? And whatever you feel, whatever your opinion is, I'd love to hear it. I hope mine was, whether you agree with mine or not, I hope it makes sense and you understand what I think is the key pieces and what I think actually matters. So anyway, guys, I will see you all very soon.